So this is what has come to be known as the Doomsday Payphone. This is where I stash my payphone radio card whenever I pass by. And it's my way of determining if anybody attempted to use the phone or at least picked it up the handset. And what do you know? It looks like somebody did, because my little card is on the ground and it's raining, so it's soaked, but I'm just going to leave it there. But it's proof that somebody attempted to use this thing, I guess. Maybe they just picked up the handset to see if there was a dial tone. But what the real news is that I've been stuffing these things into the Link machines. I think I've gone through about 200 of them, 200 cards now. With this kind of guerrilla marketing, guerrilla advertising, whatever you want to call it, if you get even one connection, that's a success. So that's what happened last night, or today rather, about 4 in the morning. Somebody called and they only stayed connected for about a minute. And that doesn't surprise me. It's probably probably less than that, because 1 minute is the lowest unit of time that my PBX can record. But somebody called from a Link machine at 4 in the morning, and I have to ask, what was the interaction like? What was the decision-making process that this person went through, and who was it? Maybe they saw the card, saw the word payphone, and maybe they got the joke. Maybe they got the connection between the old payphones and these Link things that call themselves the payphone of the future, which is a really dumb thing to be calling those things, but regardless, that's what they herald themselves as, the payphone of the future. So somebody found it, somebody looked closely enough at the card to ascertain that there's a phone number on it, which if you ask me, is not abundantly obvious. You'd really need to pay attention. And they made the call. So I'm only going to walk around for a little bit today. It's raining, it's New Year's Day, and I have a lot of work to do at home. But I wanted to maybe just see if any of my cards are still out here. I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm doing out here today. Story of my life. No, there's none here, but I don't remember if I put one on this one. Battery ran out just as I was placing the card, but there it is. The thing about assigning that old phone number to this project wasn't my initial intent, actually. I don't know that I even had a particular plan in mind for acquiring that storied and somewhat coveted phone number. It's not just coveted because it's a 212 area code. Some people get really wanky about that. But that's 212-255-2748 was the main number for the old Apology line throughout the 1980s and I guess up until 95, when the creator of Apology died. I did not acquire the number with the intent of reviving Apology. Far from it. I didn't want that responsibility. But I just wanted to bring it back to life in the spirit of a telephone art project. I don't expect it to get deluged with calls or anything, but as I expected and as I discovered soon after acquiring the number, people still call it thinking that it is the old apology line. So this one dude called with extremely detailed accounts of his child molestation experiences, and which is exactly what I did not want coming in, but that's exactly what I expected, and that's exactly what I got. Fortunately for my conscience, that dude was entirely registered on the books and the papers, and everything he was talking about was known. So I didn't have to report him or, burden my conscience with that kind of thing. But anyway, so at 4 a.m. today, New Year's Day, somebody found one of those cards on a link machine and made the call, and it's so silly, really, but this is not really the most aesthetically pleasing or well-designed thing, but to me it's not even really obvious that that's even a phone number. It's just not a standard way of presenting a phone number. I don't know, maybe I don't give myself enough credit for my graphic design skills. But it's not meant to be a slick and professional looking product, although the rounded corners are kind of slick. I just sort of want to know who called, but I'm probably never going to know. And some New Year's Eve reveler perhaps had their wits about them to see this card and recognize it for what it is. But the thing about actually making calls from these things is I've encountered very few people that have even attempted to make calls from these things. But anybody that has done that says the same thing. It's just fucking horrible. Call quality on these things is so bad that you're left just asking why. Why would anybody put this thing out here? And of course, it's not in the public interest. It's just career building for the people who put these things out here. Whoever called last night, or whoever called at 4 a.m. today, probably didn't hear anything, because that's how these things work. I know the number works because I tried it earlier. Half the time you make a call from these things, you hear absolutely nothing, and the other half of the time you can barely hear it. And that's the payphone of the future for you. So I cut my outing short because it started raining more than my tolerance would allow. But the reason I'm thinking about that old phone number again is not because I get nostalgic for Apology. I certainly do not. Do not get nostalgic for Apology or anything else. But I'm in the process of porting it from Verizon over to something else that'll let me connect it directly to my PBX, and should make things simpler for me. But I'm reminded that I have this little bag of paperwork and ephemera, I guess you'd call it, from my involvement with Apology back in, I guess it was 1993 and 94. Or no, wait, was it 92? Wow, that's earlier than I thought. And this is, you see me sticking those payphone radio cards all over the place. That was exactly what Alan and I used to do. Alan Bridge was the creator of Apology. And I printed most of these things up, but this is like these little scraps of paper that we littered Midtown with. We'd walk up Fifth Avenue, and this is just plain paper, but we also had a whole bunch of stickers that we'd stick on. Yeah, and you can see that's the old number, 255-2748. There were a couple other numbers associated with it, but I've never had an interest in those. This is a birthday card from Alan. to illustrate that we actually were, we were friends. We didn't just work on this project together. But we weren't buddies. We didn't hang out a whole lot. This is some other stuff. My main contribution to the project was the creation of this magazine. This is some rough draft printouts for the magazine cover, I think. I don't give myself any real credit for that. Publishing a zine to promote your project was hardly a bold, revolutionary idea in the 90s. And everybody had been there, done that. But I brought a lot to the table with it because I had a lot of years of experience in publishing newspapers and magazines when I was in high school and college. So I knew how all this stuff worked. But like I say, I don't. To say that I created the magazine isn't really meant to blow sunshine up my ass or anything. This was a sheet that I ended up printing these onto stickers, and there again is that famous phone number, which we carpet bombed all of Manhattan with. And there's this anger. No explanation as to what that word really means. Yeah, and then just surreal. That's one of the other numbers that was. I think this number got picked up by somebody recently. I think that's the one that got picked up. There's another number that'll probably be in this pile that, as far as I know, is still up for grabs. But I never really cared. These were the secondary numbers. 2552748 was the. This is kind of tasteless because now that I look at it again, there were child molesters calling Apology, and it was really kind of chilling and disgusting, the shit they talked about. And this, I don't know, putting posters like this around kind of makes a joke of it. I don't know. Yeah, that's the other number, 2557714. I think that one is still up for grabs, but I think it's AT&T has that number now. But these words and these phrases were meant to get your attention, and according to Alan, these flyers and these stickers and everything, according to Alan, these things really worked. They really did attract callers, and I believe him. Why would he make that up? I printed most of this stuff at my office, and this, I think, is a transcript of a call. I'm an atheist and I hate God. I think I remember that call. Alan described himself as an atheist. And this again is a transcript. This is the other thing I did, I guess. In addition to creating the magazine, I transcribed a whole shit ton of calls. I don't know how many hours I spent doing that, but in conjunction with that, Alan gave me my first ever computer with a modem and connected to the internet and all that stuff. And I never made a dime off of Apology or my involvement with it, but it's no exaggeration to say that computer changed my life. It got me online before most people were online, making me an early adopter, and I got onto the internet before most people even knew what that was. So whatever else I may think about those days and my involvement, it's no question that computer that he gave me and never took back was a game changer. These are some of the original style of flyers. He started putting these out in 1980, October 1980. And there you can see that's the main number. That was always the main number. But then sometime around the time I got involved with the project, he added these couple of secondary numbers. And the programs really started getting really long and kind of ponderous. And I had kind of given up on it myself before I ended my involvement. And yeah, here, this is just transcripts that I made of certain calls. This was a guy with, I remember this, people were talking about AIDS on Apology before that was really in the discussion, before people were talking openly about it. At least that's how he described it. Yeah, these are the actual stickers. The previous ones were all printed on just regular sheets of paper, but these are actual adhesive things that we would, I just remember walking up Fifth Avenue with Alan, and we would stick these things on the door at Bergdorf Goodman or Saks Fifth Avenue, or these, you know, these expensive upscale stores where you'd go in and spend $800 on a pair of shoes or something, but not before reading this little blurb from whatever these are, child molesters and rapists, and you know, you get your little fill of the dark side of humanity before you go and blow thousands of dollars on your clothing. And here's a copy of the magazine. I guess this is the second one from summer of '93. I don't think I was involved with this in '92. I think that was a typo or something. But these magazines were very print heavy, a lot of text. But Alan was, you know, he was also a talented artist. He had been a sculptor, and I don't think all of these illustrations are his, but some of them are. So it was a fun project, but it got old, really. It just got old and tired, and I still have all these stickers, though, which I printed at my office. Anyway. Just as I got up to come back outside, it stopped raining. I got an email from somebody. I think I mentioned him recently. About 2 years ago, he wrote a review of the payphone radio, and he really got it. I really appreciated his sensitivity and sympathies and all that. Not everybody gets it, and I'm fine with that. But he, and I mentioned him recently because he wrote that review a couple of years ago, but sometime within the last couple of weeks, he was interviewed by another publication. And they asked him, you know, you've been reviewing internet radio for a long time. What's the weirdest, most unusual thing you found in all these travels? And he said, oh man, there's this one station where it's all the content is called in from New York City payphones. And he made this comment, like, you know, over 2 years after he wrote that review, so he's obviously still thinking about it. So I guess I'm not too surprised that he just reached out to me again to do a follow-up interview. And he has a lot of questions. He wants to do this over a payphone, and I've been more than accommodating about that kind of thing in the past. But it's really not, I don't think it's going to be practical. The Doomsday phone, I don't think stays connected. I think it has a hard timeout of, I think, 5 or 6 minutes. It just doesn't let you keep the call going. So the other option, I guess, would be Penn Station. That's probably the likeliest scenario, but it just, I don't know. It's not as practical as it used to be. I did a really long interview once with the BBC from a payphone that used to be right. I'm about to pass by where that phone used to be. And I was talking for like over an hour, and it was just like uncomfortable. Not that I'm a complainer, but I think we'll probably just end up fielding the questions through email. Oh, look, this one's still here. Actually, I think I already... Yeah, this is from earlier today, not... I don't always remember where I've been in a day. But I did that BBC interview, and then I think CBC, Canadian Broadcasting, I did from a payphone up on 34th Avenue, like 44th Street, I think. And I did the St. Pete Times, which some have said was probably the best piece anyone's done about my projects. I did an interview with that reporter from 34th Avenue in Vernon, across from Rainey Park. So I'm no stranger to doing that sort of thing, just in the spirit of things, but there just aren't any left. Like I said, the Doomsday Phone is the nearest one at hand, but it has some kind of hard timeout, which would involve me calling back and it'd be stupid. I don't know. I'll think about it. Let's give this a try again. I've just been at my desk outlining my responses to the radio guy, the interviewer. I would like to have done this from a payphone, but it's just not as practical as it used to be. Let's see if this works. Yep, okay. We have liftoff.
The copyright holder has managed to maintain control. But I got a similar request on our 5-6 months ago.
That's where you want to be. I am giving this interviewer probably way more of a response than he was expecting, but that's okay. Better too much than too little. There's some questions don't really make sense to me, but that's okay. I mean, they do and they don't. They don't really apply, let's put it that way. I think I said earlier that, or maybe I didn't, when I first heard from him, it was in February of 2020, just before lockdown. I didn't really realize that he was a pretty big deal in the business, and that his column is pretty influential. But now he's, but you know, it didn't change the substance of what I said. I would have delivered the same responses, even if this was a college blogger or something. But like I said, after it published and I did a little bit of digging into his background, I was like, this guy's not exactly Casey Kasem or anything, but he's something in the business. I'm not going to tell him about the blue thing. It's gotten too weird. But I did link him to my IVR, which I have failed to publicize or even publish at all. I mean, it's been working for a couple of months now, and it's about as final shape as it's going to be for the foreseeable future. But nobody knows it's there. A couple of friends called it, though, and they were very positively impressed, which was satisfying. Oh, and I checked the call record again, and whoever that was that called at 4 a.m. actually called twice. And if they called from any of the locations where I left the cards yesterday, that would have been all along Roosevelt Avenue under the subway. It's a very noisy thoroughfare, although maybe not so much at 4 in the morning. But I mean, the roar of the subway never gets muffled. But like I say, with this kind of guerrilla advertising, guerrilla marketing, or whatever you want to call it, a single connection like that is a big deal. A success, if you will. I think this is the... Oh, wait, there's only one other one left after this. I was looking through that apology stuff earlier. It was reminding me that I don't do stickers anymore. It's, if it sticks, it's vandalism. And I'm not all sanctimonious about that kind of thing, but I'm on record enough in saying that I oppose vandalism. I'm on record enough that I'd be called out for it if I appeared to be a hypocrite about that. My friend Jordan does what he calls advertising interventions. Used to do those on the payphones, but of course they're almost all gone now. But he does, I think he still does them on bus shelters. Because you can, the keys for those advertising display cabinets are not unique. And I think they're actually easily obtainable. So once you have the key, opening the cabinet is a snap, and he does that, and he puts artwork on top of the advertising, and it's usually gone within 24 hours because people are constantly circling the city, cruising around looking to make sure that the display advertising is what it's supposed to be, because those advertisers pay a lot of money for that stuff. But what he does is disruptive without being destructive, which I appreciate. It's not something I have the nerve to do, or really even the instinct, but that's cool. I think this is the last one, 45th Street. I do go back again to what that person's interaction was with finding one of these cards on a link machine last night and following through with making an actual phone call, making the call to the number printed on the card. It's just warms the cockles of my heart.